Hello there. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I am going to go over this email from Jamie. I think you'll find a lot of value from the thoughts and advice that will come out of this email. I'm gonna get right to it, but as always, when I do these podcasts and videos, etc., nothing is medical advice to anyone, but rather general thoughts and advice that I hope will be helpful and that you can choose whether to apply to your situation or not. Now, this said, let's read this email that I got 3 days ago from Jamie. This is my third bout with insomnia, and it feels like the worst. It has lasted 5 months. The one before 2 years ago lasted 3 months. I first encountered this after a health scare. The doctor sent me through many tests, and I became extremely anxious for the first time in my life and experienced insomnia. I love to sleep, so I had no idea what was happening. The second time it ended when a friend sent me a video on sleep restriction. It worked about 2 weeks. I didn't think I'd ever see insomnia again, but it returned. I tried sleep restriction again, but it didn't seem to be working, or I became impatient. I'm on day 10 now of trying again. The difference is that the first time I did it and it worked, I would lay in bed no matter what, and I would go to bed and get up at the same time no matter what. This time it didn't work. You say, wait until you're sleepy, then go to bed and get up at the same time. Then if you wake up, get up after 15 minutes. I tried that last night, but I didn't get sleepy again. I tried to go back to sleep and couldn't. Now, I have a strange tightness and discomfort in my neck and head. It feels like allergies, but a pill doesn't help much. I believe my spells are anxiety induced. I have a therapist and I'm working on the anxiety without medication. I'm leaving my job because I'm not happy there and it contributed to my stress. I feel much happier in my spirit, but my body is taking a while to get in gear. I also have a weird thing with my stomach. It feels full and tight when my head does. I've been to so many doctors. I do yoga and meditate. That helps as long as I stay regular. I have muscle shakes too when I don't get good sleep. My pattern now is like one day 4 hours, next day 5 hours, then 7 to 8 hours and repeat. When I was getting 6 hours regular, I felt great. Please help. Thanks, Jamie. Well, first of all, thank you, Jamie, for letting me share this so that other people can learn from your situation. Now that said, a number of things came across my mind as I was reading this, and I think the first one was, you have had insomnia episodes 3 times now, so you are, probably one of these people that are a little bit predisposed to getting insomnia. And the reason I bring that up is that I'm hopeful that what we can learn today, and maybe by checking other videos as well, but I hope that you can learn techniques and insights that will keep you from getting insomnia ever again. And keep in mind, everybody has a bad night, maybe a couple of bad nights as well, but I'm hopeful that you can get to a point where you never have these like long episodes of insomnia ever again. Now, the second thing that crossed my mind was the following. When it comes to sleep, expectations are often our enemy. Being hopeful, being optimistic is very, very good, but having an expectation often is not. So keeping that in mind, you had a bout of insomnia in the past. You tried sleep restriction. Now you're having insomnia again, and now I bet that to some extent you're expecting that the sleep restriction will help, and that expectation leads to like self-inquiry and monitoring. So instead of that first time when you're like, let me try this, you didn't really have any expectations, it worked, but this time you're thinking, wait a minute, the sleep restriction isn't working. It worked in the past. Why isn't it working now? What's different now? What am I doing differently? What am I doing wrong? Etc. So I just want to point out here that, that expectation may have been something that set you back. It's not that the sleep restriction isn't working. It's probably the expectation that, set you up for it not to work at this time. Plus, there are other things as well. But I wanted to point that one out. I think that was really, really important. Now, you said here that in the past, when you tried sleep restriction, you would get in bed and get up no matter what, and then you tried one night before sending this email to just kind of wait till you're sleepy, get up, and then you woke up and couldn't go back to sleep again. I think there are definitely things with this technique that we can work on. I want to jump ahead to like the last part of the email where you say my pattern now is 4 hours and then 5 hours and then 7 to 8 hours and then repeat this pattern. And that actually, when I read that, I was like, this is actually making me very optimistic. There's, because if you add up, let's say an 8-hour night, being a little bit maybe optimistic there, but an 8-hour night plus a 5 plus a 4-hour night, you may be averaging like pretty close to 6 hours. It's just that, it's not consistent. And so when you have some type of pattern, it's always better. It's a better starting point than having like a completely erratic sleep cycle. So, and the other thing, I think you definitely have insight. You're saying like when I was getting 6 hours regular, I felt great. That means, you're like most people actually do fine on 6 hours and you're not expecting to sleep 8 hours. That is great because I think that is what you need. You felt great when you were sleeping 6 hours. So here is what I think you should definitely consider. Spend about 6 hours in bed and pick. It sounds like you have a wake up time. That's great. I'm just going to say that you chose, let's say it was 6 a.m. as your wake up time. Then for now, try to stay up until like close to midnight. 11:30, 11:45, or even midnight. Like, don't go to bed before. Let's pick 11:30 as like, don't go to bed before 11:30. Even if you're sleepy, even if you feel sleepy at 10:30, 10:45, 11, try to make it till 11:30. So that gives you a 6.5 hour window in which to sleep. And I think you hadn't really done that in the past. So please do that. Meaning, I think in the past you may have had like a fixed bedtime where you went to bed no matter what. But now, combination of don't go to bed before 11:30 plus don't go to bed before that if you're sleepy, plus, if you're not feeling sleep at 11:30, then just wait until you do. And then continue. Like, I think it's also good to continue. If you wake up and you feel like I can't feel back asleep, then leave the bedroom, do something that is not too boring, not something that's so boring that you just think about, I want to go back to sleep. But maybe not something super engaging either that keeps you awake, but something like read a book, listen to a podcast, or something that that you have to feel is somewhat enjoyable. So now I think a final kind of insight I want to share here or talk about is all these little symptoms that you have, like tightness in your neck and head, like the tightness in your fullness in your stomach, and you say that I believe my spells are anxiety induced, and oftentimes, like these type of symptoms often are related to anxiety, and even more so related to like self-monitoring. That a lot of times with insomnia, people tend to like really examine what's happening, like the way they're feeling, and try to figure things out and make sense of it all. And that exploration is actually not helpful, because when you're exploring why you aren't sleeping, you feel like you have this tension, this thing feels weird, that just brings attention to it. You're thinking about sleep, you're thinking about insomnia, you're thinking about it, and that makes it much harder to sleep. And now that becomes so what do you do becomes the question, right? And you cannot just say, I'm not going to focus on this, I'm just going to stop thinking about it. That is impossible. And I often like to bring up the pink elephant problem. If somebody tells you like, don't think about a pink elephant, you think about a pink elephant. So I think the best way to do is, yoga, meditate. That's great. Keep busy. And I think, I'm happy that you're leaving a situation that contributed to your stress. But on the flip side of that, now you may have more time. And with time, you have time to worry, time to think about sleep, So now more than ever, it's super important that you are preoccupied. Like, meet people, get out, like try to be as active as you can, because that will keep you from thinking about sleep. And I think these are really, really good insights for you, Jamie. And please let me know what you thought about this. If you have any follow-up questions, as well as what happens as you move along here. And I'm going to start saying this to everyone here, that what tends to happen, I've noticed, is that once people are doing better, I don't really hear from them, which makes me happy. Because I know I haven't heard from somebody in a long time. I think they're doing great, which makes me happy. But for the sake of people that have problems in the future, it's always great to hear that what happens in the long term, particularly, I mean, anything, I want to hear anything, but particularly if like, 2 months from now, 6 weeks from now, 5 months from now, anytime in the future, you're like, I'm sleeping good again, because then I can make like kind of a complete episode where I talk about how this person started, what happened, and how they, how things resolve for them, and that can be really, really inspiring. So, Jamie, again, thank you so much for reaching out. If you have any questions, send me an email, daniel@insomniainsight.co, and I'm hopeful that you'll be sleeping much better in the near future. Thank you.